So we are in the page number 28, where we are reading the challenges faced by the Election Commission of India after the first election, or before the first election. So the first challenge is that it is not going easy to hold a free and fair election for a country of India's size, because we are having so many population and so much size of population. Second challenge is to draw the delimitation boundaries. This is the revision I'm doing. And third is to prepare an electoral roll, voter list. So in starting they had made a electoral roll, but when they finalize it, when they see it finally, they saw that 40 lakh women were not recorded properly. So they had neglected that voter list and they had made it again. At that time, there were about 17 crore eligible voters. That is a huge number of citizens who had to be elected. 3,200 MLAs and 489 members of Lok Sabha. Only 15% of these eligible voters were elected. This is a main important point, very main important point, that of all the total eligible voters of India at that time, only 15% of them are literate. And this is the very big challenge for our election commission and for our democracy also. I'm reading in page number 28. The election commission trained over 3 lakh officer and polling staff to conduct the election. इलेक्शन कमीशन ने 3 लाख ऑफिसर्स को, इलेक्शन ऑफिसर्स को ट्रेन किया एंड पोलिंग स्टाफ को ट्रेन किया फॉर द कंडक्ट ऑफ इलेक्शन, कि हमको ये इलेक्शन कैसे कराना है. और क्योंकि इंडिया में इलिटरेट लोग ज़्यादा थे, तो उनके लिए इलेक्शन कैसे कराना, जो कि एक बहुत ही बड़ी जिम्मेदारी था. Next paragraph, it was not just the size of the country and the electorate that made this election unusual. The first general election was also the first big test of democracy in a poor and illiterate country. At that time, India was very poor, and as we already discussed, that only 15% of people are literate. It means 85% are illiterate. So it is a very big and mammoth task for a election commission to hold election in such a country that where so many big percentage, you can say 85% is not a small percentage, 85% people are illiterate. Till then, democracy had existed only in the prosperous countries, mainly in Europe and North America, where nearly everyone was literate. इस दौर तक, आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट 1950s का जो दौर था, उस समय डेमोक्रेसी केवल अच्छे कंट्रीज, अच्छे यूरोपियन कंट्रीज ही डेमोक्रेसीज को अपनाते थे. बट इंडियन कंट्री, और यू कैन से इंडियन लीडर्स हैज टेकन अप दिस mammoth task that they will go for the democratic part of government. By that time, many countries in Europe had not given voting rights to all women. But ऐसे समय भी फर्स्ट इलेक्शन में भी इंडियन गवर्नमेंट, और यू कैन से इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन हैज़ गिवन द वोटिंग राइट्स टू वुमेन. यानी कि इंडिया के डीएनए में ही वोटिंग राइट्स और यू कैन से इक्वल राइट्स बसा हुआ है. इन दिस कॉन्टेक्स्ट, इंडियन एक्सपेरिमेंट विद यूनिवर्सल एडल्ट फ्रेंचाइज अपीयर्ड वेरी बोल्ड एंड रिस्की. काफ़ी लोगों ने इंडिया को ये यू कैन से चैलेंज किया कि अभी आप लोग बिल्कुल न्यूली आज़ाद हुए और हम लोगों को इस टाइप के इलेक्शन नहीं कराने चाहिए, या फिर यू कह सकते हो कि सब जो वोटिंग राइट्स है शुड नॉट बी गिवन टू वुमेन एंड अनइलिटरेट, यू कैन से इलिटरेट पीपल. बट यहाँ तक कि एक बहुत बड़े एडिटर, इन इंडियन एडिटर, कॉल्ड इट द बिगेस्ट गैम्बल इन हिस्ट्री. गैम्बल मीन्स बिकॉज द इलिटरेट पीपल डजंट नो द पावर ऑफ देयर वोट एंड दे कैन गिव वोट फॉर 1 rupee, for 2 rupee also at that time. So an Indian editor called it the biggest gamble in Indian history. But in the next page number 30, next paragraph, the election had to be postponed twice and finally held from October 1951 to February 1952. It means October, November, December, January, February. It takes 5 months to hold election in a very big country like India. But this election is referred to as a 1952 election, since most parts of the country voted in January 1952. But whenever there is a question that when was the first election in India was held, the answer will be 1951. But it is written in 1952 because the most election has been taken part in 1952. It took 6 months for the campaigning, polling and counting to be completed. लगभग 6 महीने campaigning, polling and counting of the votes में लगे because at that time ballot papers से election होता था, not like EVM. EVMs के बारे में आप लोग पढ़ सकते हो in page number 29 in the previous page. It is written about the EVM, electronic voting machine. So it took 6 months for the campaigning, polling and counting of votes to be completed. Elections were competitive. There was on an average more than 4 candidates for each seat. हर सीट के लिए लगभग 4 लोग थे. There is a competition, good competition. More than half the eligible voter turned out to vote on the day of election. लगभग 50% से ज़्यादा voting हुआ उस दिन इंडिया में. When the results were declared, that were accepted as fair even by the losers. When the results were declared, you can say, for the first election, even the losers who lose their seats and who stands but lose their seats, they also think that the election has been done in a fair manner. Indian general election of 1952 became a landmark in history of democracy all over the world. 1952 का जो इंडिया का इलेक्शन हुआ वो हिस्ट्री में माना जाता है because India was poor country at that time. 85% of the voters were illiterate. वोटर लिस्ट, बहुत बड़े कंट्री के लिए वोटर लिस्ट तैयार करना बहुत ही बड़ी चीज़ है. एंड फोर्थ, इंडिया इज़ डेमोक्रेटिक कंट्री. बहुत सारे कंट्री एट दैट टाइम वर नॉट गोन फॉर डेमोक्रेसी. दे हैड गॉन फॉर मिलिट्री रूल, दे हैव गॉन फॉर monarchy system, but India has adopted a democratic government. So in the last line of page number 30, this Indian general election of 1952 became a landmark in the history of democracy all over the world. It was no longer possible to argue that democratic election could not be held in condition of poverty or lack of education. बहुत सारे कंट्रीज़ ने इंडिया को बोला कि बिकॉज ऑफ लैक ऑफ एजुकेशन, बिकॉज ऑफ पॉवर्टी, देयर इज़ नो पॉसिबिलिटी ऑफ होल्डिंग इलेक्शन इन सच ए कंट्री. बट इंडिया ने ये उनको दिखा दिया कि दैट विल पावर होनी चाहिए एंड दिस इज़ नॉट द हर्डल. इट प्रूव दैट डेमोक्रेसी कुड बी प्रैक्टिस्ड एनीवेयर इन द वर्ल्ड. इंडिया ने ये प्रूव कर दिया बाकी कंट्रीज़ के लिए कि दैट डेमोक्रेसी विल बी प्रूव्ड इन एनी पार्ट. हम इस चीज़ का बहाना नहीं लगा सकते कि बिकॉज ऑफ लैक ऑफ एजुकेशन, बिकॉज ऑफ पावर्टी. बट इंडिया ने ये चीज़ उनको दिखा दिया. सो इन दिस टॉपिक विच वी हैव डिस्कस्ड, first is of 1 mark question, that is in page number 27, the 3 1 mark question. When was our constitution was adopted, signed and came into effect? Then 1 mark question again, who was the first chief election commissioner of India and when the election commission of India was set up? In the next page, page number 28, there is one question of 3 marks, or you can say 2 or 4 marks, challenges of election commission of India for the first election. Then in page number 29 again, a short note about the EVMs. In page number 30, there is only one question of 2 marks, that how India has made a history in 1952 by doing the first general election of India in 1952. So we will see you in the next topic of Congress dominance in the first 3 general election tomorrow. Thank you.